What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to hop on because I just came across an amazing photo. It's President Macron hugging Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia. So President Macron, of course, the leader of France, he's doing some overseas trips. He's basically went down to Mayotte where they just had a cyclone hit, as well as visiting Djibouti, which up to this point, due to a lot of the France losing ground, is pretty much their largest base, operational base in Africa right now. But there are multiple countries with bases in Djibouti. But he's going to Djibouti to eat with the troops, and he's also visiting Ethiopia. And I think the picture just caught my eye because it's not an image I'm used to seeing every day. African leader being so fully embraced by their European counterpart. And it really made me think of the ramifications and what intention it had behind this. Of course, I think that France has really struggled for a few decades in losing its powers. Over the centuries, France used to be considered one of the most powerful countries in the world in the early 1800s. But over time, their power has been diluted, primarily due to the United States. I think France really tried to start a lot of organizations, but to supplement their strength, they usually brought in the British. And I'm thinking some of the roots of early NATO was with France. Your EU, some of the early efforts of the EU was with France. And what they would bring in a lot of security packs. Remember the Triple Entente in World War One? It was all security efforts to protect Western Europe, and they were bringing in the UK, and they weren't strong enough to counteract Germany, or Russia, and so they will eventually bring in the United States. And the United States and the UK have continued to flourish for numerous reasons together, but we have seen inversely proportional France influence across the world decline, and that's really becoming evident now in the 21st century as they're actually getting kicked out of a lot of their former colonies in Africa. So I do see this as a way, and don't forget, you have countries such as uh, Togo or Rwanda, which are in the Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth. These were French colonies or French protectorates that are actually in the British Commonwealth now. They and they're adopted. In Rwanda, they speak English, not French. So you see this evolution of not only have French influence decline, but their allies are actually co-opting some of their former colonies. And of course, these colonies eventually leads to markets and trades. So as your markets and trades decline, so too does your influence. So it's very interesting that France chose Ethiopia, which is not a bad decision because Ethiopia is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Prime Minister Ahmed has a lot of domestic problems as he seeks to consolidate power within the country and fight the autonomous government and defense, and particularly most recently the Tigray region. But as he tries to consolidate the power in the country, some will say that some of his actions have been an overstretch and abuse of power. So France really reaching out to him, I think, speaks to not almost a form of, I won't say desperation, but they are definitely reaching for straws. Of course, Ethiopia being the one African country that wasn't colonized and was able to maintain its sovereignty, it has really no colonial past. So it really is interesting to see Ethiopia correspondingly embrace the French, which I think is a great idea. Don't forget, France is still one of the great nuclear powers. France is still a UN Security Council member. So France still has some power. It's legacy power, but it's power and technology nonetheless. And France is still a head honcho within the EU. So a lot of technology, some development of the economy can go a great way of benefiting Ethiopia. And so I thought that was interesting seeing these two hugged up. France has also done some work there. They're getting contracts, they're getting business. And I think they kind of been squeezing Ethiopia because they're losing ground. So it's going to be interesting to see who replaced France in places like Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad. What other countries? And obviously the only country that come to mind immediately is going to be your Gulf states, probably UAE and or Turkey. So, and I'll get into that in a sec, but there's this hug, this embrace between these two leaders was really interesting to me as President Macron visited Ethiopia. Um, France have already done great work in restoration efforts. They're building these cultural ties with Ethiopia and technology. They restored the National Palace, I believe, home to former leader Haile Selassie. They also have committed to helping restorations of the Lalibela churches. So they actually are trying to do some soft power work in Ethiopia. And we'll see if it's too little too late as far as Africa is concerned. The other concern France has, and I can see this is why they're really working hard to maintain some type of a connection, because don't forget, the lifeline for Europe is the Red Sea. He who controls the Red Sea absolutely controls Europe. And that Red Sea carries fuel and trade through from Asian markets and to Asian markets. So Europe is highly dependent on the Red Sea. And even if France, like for instance, natural gas, it gets a lot of its natural gas from Norway, which isn't dependent on the Red Sea, but other European countries are. So, like I said, that unfettered access, to have unfettered access to trade with countries through the Red Sea, such as the Gulf states, India, China, Southeast Asia, the places that the markets are at, east coast of Africa as well, is very vital. So that other concern is France being squeezed out by Turkey? Now, one thing that has subtly gone under the radar is nearly almost all disputes within the region. Turkey and France are on opposite sides. They're on opposite sides. Whether we talk about Western Sahara, France is more aligned with Morocco. Turkey is more aligned with Algeria. Turkey does try to play the mediator role where they don't have a strong backing, and they fully commit when they do have a strong backing. So when you have a situation such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey sends in troops. So the same thing, Turkey heavily supported in the Caucasus. That's another conflict. Turkey and France, opposite sides, right? Turkey, they supported Azerbaijan. The French supported Armenia. But Turkey was in a fear of Turkish influence. It was a lot easier for Turkey with their Bayraktar drones to go in there and really help, as well as their military advisory, to go into Azerbaijan and help secure it in the Nagorno-Karabakh area for Azerbaijan. Somalia. Right now, Turkey's trying to put itself as a mediator. But you have a situation. This is a great example. France is saying, Ethiopia, we want to help you get unfettered sea access. Because what did Ethiopia do? Ethiopia just went into Somalia, took a breakaway region, said, we recognize your sovereignty, give us support. And Somaliland, this breakaway region, did so, infuriating the Somalis, right? And the Somalis reached out, and they're getting support from Turkey. Now, since then, Turkey has said, look, we want to moderate. We want to be on equal terms. But it's quite obvious Turkey is siding with Somalia in this dispute, with that massive coastline they have on the east coast of Africa. Syria, another dispute. France, Turkey, opposite side of the line. Turkey obviously behind some of those northwest region groups, the HTS being one of them. France, who did France back? France backed strongly the Kurdish forces. They're committed in supporting the Kurdish forces. Another one, Libya. Turkey, they backed the UN recognized government operating out of Tripoli. France backs the strongman Marshal Haftar that's operating out the eastern portion of the country. So time and time again, we've seen these two countries butt head, trying to assert leadership within the region. So I think with Ethiopia becoming a rise in power, France slipping from power and trying to maintain some types of influence in the region after being completely diluted by American Anglo power, whether that's American and British power within the region, and France still trying to maintain some type of leverage for itself. Them really trying to build that relationship is very interesting, because I think really it's only a matter of time between either Germany steps up with their leadership, and they're an interesting country to watch with their foreign minister, Baerbock. She's got a very strong profile. I wouldn't be surprised if she has a very strong position leading that country in the coming years. But I see either Germany stepping up and taking leadership in Europe, which they have not been able to do. Remember, the whole point of the alliances is to keep America in, Russia out, Germans down. And this is their legacy from World War II. So French German leadership has been neutered, making the de facto leader of Germany, the de facto leader of Europe, France. But France's power has been diluted by the more globally oriented United States and the United Kingdom. So I think it's only a matter of time for France really make stronger efforts to reach out to countries that are outside the sphere of this Anglo influence. Like, try to get more influence within China, trying to get more influence within Southeast Asia, trying to get more influence in maybe other parts of Africa that don't have as much of a bad taste as their former Francophone colonies. Now, France has done a lot of things which you consider bad leadership, letting they had so many countries in Africa as colonies, and for very few of those colonies, I think they're boiled down right now to what? Gabon and Cote d'Ivoire, to have so many colonies really sour on them. To really sour on them, they really need to look themselves in the mirror. So the evolution of France is very interesting to watch. The relationship and the power struggle between France and Turkey is very interesting to watch. And watching Ethiopia, the most populous landlocked country in the world, seek to get sea power, and how they do it is something very interesting to watch. So love to hear your comments below. Like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.